Hi there, this is Katherine Moller here for another installment of Tips and Tricks. Today I've decided to do something a little bit different. I don't actually have any words of wisdom for you today. What I thought that I would do is show you my Baroque violin. As you may know, I am very active as a fiddler, as a classical violinist, and as a Baroque violinist. And recently I talked about the fact that a violin and a fiddle are actually the same instrument. So I wanted to show you my Baroque violin because this is actually a different violin. Now it is still a violin, it still looks very much like a normal violin. It's got the body, it's got the neck here, the fingerboard, it's got the pegs. So it looks very much the same, but there are a few differences. So first thing you may notice is that I don't have a chin rest on my violin. So I don't actually have anywhere that I put my chin. Also, you'll notice here, there are no fine tuners at all. Something that you can't tell is that the strings are a little different. So these strings are made out of gut. So they're actually made out of sheep intestine that's twisted together to make the strings. And then this one, the lowest string, actually has a gut core and then it's wrapped in silver. Modern strings normally have a synthetic core that is wrapped in some sort of metal, often silver, sometimes gold. But these ones are actually made out of gut. So these are historically the strings that would have been played. Now I guess that's something that I should talk about. The Baroque era was between around 1600 and 1750. So that's kind of the time period that we're talking about. So you'll notice up here, this end all looks the same, the scroll looks the same, and the pegs look the same. Now something, I don't know if you can really tell this, but the way the neck is set into the violin is a little different. With a modern violin, the neck is angled more this way. With the Baroque violin, it goes very direct onto the instrument. And you'll see that here there's a different wood color, and then the ebony, the black part, is just a veneer. So this violin, this specific violin, has a spruce core, and then the sides here are pear wood, and then this top bit is made out of ebony. And then my tailpiece is the same thing. So most modern tailpieces are made either with pure ebony or sometimes they're made out of plastic. But here, this one, again, it's a spruce core, and then pear wood on the sides, and then ebony veneer on top. And you'll notice on the back that I don't use a shoulder rest. So no chin rest, no shoulder rest, no fine tuners. This part, the fingerboard and the tailpiece, are both made out of spruce with just a veneer, an ebony veneer. So this violin is much, much lighter than any of my other violins because there's no hardware on it and the construction itself is much lighter. Now, another big difference is the bow, and especially if we look way at the tip, see how this bow is really pointy, right? A normal violin bow would have a much bigger tip, and then notice how my bow actually kind of goes out this way. A modern violin bow dips in towards the strings, but this one actually goes out a little bit and then goes to this pointy tip. So they changed the design of the bow because the modern bow works much better for being able to sustain sound and being able to make that sustained sound all the way to the tip. With this bow, as you get to the tip, the sound really dies off. I mean, you can sustain, but it's a lot more work. With a modern bow, with that heavier tip, it makes it easier to sustain like that. This bow is really good for playing really fast notes. It works very well for that. So those are the big differences between a modern violin and a Baroque violin. I'll play you just a tiny little bit. I don't have a huge amount prepared, but I'll play you just a little tiny bit so that you can hear. This is just like a couple of bars of a violin sonata written by a man named Leclerc. And so this violin In my mind, I don't think you can probably hear it all that well over Facebook Live, but in my mind, a modern violin has sort of a beam of sound that's much more direct. And then the Baroque violin has this warm sound that kind of fills a room and envelops you. So there you go. That's your little introduction to the difference between a Baroque violin and a modern violin. I hope you found that interesting, even though it doesn't really help you with your own playing. But it's a big part of my life, so I just thought that I would share that with you. I'll see you next week.